Good morning, everybody. This is the Clydesdale Fitness and Friends podcast. My name is Scott Schweitzer, my co-host Kat Shear, and we have a very special friend joining us this morning, Andre Houdet.
Thanks
Andre,
for
how
having
are
me.
you?
Very good, very good. And you guys?
Yes, we are doing awesome. It's
We're
been a
good.
fun couple weeks,
You
and
didn't,
we love
Scott. You
getting to
didn't
know.
say Houdet the way you usually say Houdet when we talk about Andre.
So I live in Ohio here in the States, and the Cincinnati Bengals are just down the road. And do you know their chant?
Hmm? No?
Houdet!
Really?
Yeah,
That's what,
yeah.
That's
and
cool.
it's a
So,
it's a play on words of who are they,
Yeah,
Houdet.
yeah, exactly.
So that's
That's
anytime
honestly how
we
I tell
mention your
people to
name.
pronounce my name.
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, that's the
Yeah.
easiest
So
way to go
around
for
here, we always say, Andre Houdet.
it.
Thank
So,
you for sharing
That's
that. I
nice.
wanted to make sure Andre knew that.
yeah, because I actually picked you for my fantasy CrossFit in the final week of the semifinals, and that's how I picked you during our draft.
It's
That's
very
cool.
dramatic.
Well, I like that.
So Andre, it's really cool. You kind of on your Instagram, you say you're a 2/3 time CrossFit Games athlete. So that /3, I'm assuming, is the 2020 debacle of a season.
Yeah, in 2020, I was planning to try to qualify through the sanctional system. So either you were the national champ, or qualify individually through the sanctional system. And I was 7 seconds from winning the national champ across the 5 workouts. So it was a really close
Wow.
race. So after I lost that, I just booked literally every sanctional event. And I was like, I'm going to start with the first one and I'm going to keep showing up until I win one. And it got pretty close a few times. Then unfortunately, Corona happened. But before that, the gym I was training in, they asked me if I wanted to join their team because they're trying to qualify a team for the CrossFit Games, and they kind of needed a guy who could stand in because they hadn't really found the full team yet. But they saw an opportunity with going to China because there wasn't a lot of strong teams going. So we kind of made a deal that if I helped them qualify, they would support me individually for the rest of the season. So we went to China with the team, and we won that. So that gave us a games ticket. That's why in 2020 qualified for the games as a team. That's why it's kind of in brackets. So yeah,
Mm. And if you had become national champion that year, it wouldn't have mattered,
no,
right? I mean, you wouldn't have gone anyway. So it's kind of good that you
that's
didn't,
true.
because
Yeah,
then you wouldn't be able to put that 3 there at all.
no, that's true. Yeah, and it was really unfortunate because I had pretty close race in England, the final competition right before the lockdown, and it was just the final event. It all came down to if I could pull like a top 3, I would qualify for the games, and I didn't, which was unfortunate. But anyways, that year was a crazy year with Corona and everything.
As we've been talking to all the European athletes, you're the first that we have talked to that played American football.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah. And so I was looking at, what position did you play first of all?
I played safety.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
And then I read that you actually came to the States with hopes of pursuing a career in the NFL.
Yeah, that was kind of my dream when I was younger. I started playing football when I was 11. We had a pretty like the best American football team was really close to where I lived, and I used to play soccer and I used to swim and a lot of other sports. And there was one thing that kind of happened with the soccer team, which kind of made me a little bit lose interest, or like I had a really good season when I was 10 years old, and I definitely thought that back then I was going to go pro in soccer. But a lot of things happened, and anyways, there was an opportunity with American football, and they kind of hosted these tryouts, and I showed up, and I had a natural itch for hitting people, I assume, or they were pretty excited about that part, and they told me to keep coming back, and the tryouts was like every spring, summer, winter, and autumn, and I kept doing them while I was playing soccer on the side, and one day I just decided that, I wanted to change sports, and so I changed to American football. And like with most other things that I do, it's kind of all in, and so it was natural for me to just think I want to go to the NFL, because that's the pinnacle of the sport. And I was lucky to play for one of the bigger clubs. Like, we had 50 people on our youth team, so it was a
Wow.
pretty big roster for a Danish American football team. We had full squad on offense, defense, special teams. We didn't need anybody to play both ways, and excuse me. And so yeah, so I was kind of all in on that. And we also have the national team, which I played for as well. And there I was the speaking captain. And through a European tournament, I got selected to go to something they call Team World. So I don't know if this still exists, but they used to set up like a world team that would play Team USA. So the best like youth players from all over the world outside of America would meet up at the IMG Academy in Florida, which is like a sports center for, I mean, now they have like high school football, and it's like a dream setup for any athlete, really. And that's also kind of a way to scout European players, or that's how it used to be. Now they have the European pathway for NFL, which
Mm.
is makes it a lot easier to be able to send film and those kind of things, because they don't really believe European film, simply because they can't really estimate what the level is. So if you're the running back and you score a touchdown every time you touch the ball, it doesn't really matter too much, because they don't really have too much credibility in terms of how good is the defense and how good are the teams. And I also moved to America for a year to play. I mean, I did an exchange year and hoped I would end up at a good high school to try to kind of get my way through there, and eventually maybe stay in America if there was any good opportunities. And it didn't work out. I've never really been that talented of a player, and physically gifted. Never any insane, 40-yard dash or 225 bench test or something like that. And you know how it is in America. And we're not used to this in Europe the same way. It's like in America, there's tons of people. So when
Mhm.
you select players, you can already just kind of make a quick cut through by looking at 40-yard dash, like all the stats, rather than like looking at, before you look at game film, you'll always look at, I mean, because you have so many to select through. So of course you just want to have the biggest and fastest, and then you can look at the other things afterwards. And I'd never really had any of that. I felt like I had a lot of the other part, and that's also why I played safety. I think
Mhm.
it's a position where, of course, you have to be physically brute and fast, and all of those things, but it's not. I would say it's maybe the least position where you need to be those things, because if you can read a play well, you can be at the right place, you can make sure you take the right angle to hit the wide receiver at that spot, or read the offense and those kind of things. It's a little bit the quarterback of the defense, I would say. You guys will know that.
Yeah.
So I also specialized as a long snapper, because I thought it would be bigger chance if I was great at snapping as well. Maybe I could be like a dual kind of position. But long story short, when I went to America for the IMG Academy, I got super sick, and I never ended up getting cleared to play. And then I came back to Denmark, continued to play, but eventually, I was 19 years old, and I wasn't playing college football, and I also wasn't really ready to sacrifice it all to try to go to college, pay my way through, and move away from my family and everything, when I knew the chances were very, very slim. And it takes a lot for me to not go for something where the chances are slim. But this felt like there had barely been any European players in the NFL by that time, unless it was a kicker. And so it just felt like it was really, really a long shot, and I wasn't that talented. And I knew that. And And yeah, so that's kind of the story with American football.
Yeah, and it's funny you said like that we don't trust a European film in the NFL. It's kind of like the American film in the open.
Yeah, okay.
That was just a joke. Just a joke.
Yeah, okay.
With all the Hiller stuff going on and the critiques.
All the no reps. Yeah.
Yeah, he's been busy.
Yeah, so you realize that this is not in the cards. So was CrossFit what you found to fill the competition gap?
Exactly. So we had one guy who played on the same in the same club as me, and when I was 20, I moved up to our senior team. So you advance from the youth teams, and one of the guys who played on that team was Frederick Egidius, which is 5 times games athlete and the husband of Annie Thor's daughter. And so we start training some CrossFit in the off season. So my first senior season, we start doing a lot of CrossFit in the off season, and I just really fell in love with the training part of it. And this has happened to me before with other sports where I love the training a bit more than I love the sport in itself. When I lived in America, I also did grappling for a season, and I really loved just the the training aspect of it. And I felt like this again when I discovered CrossFit, and I realized that I didn't really need a whole team to rely on. And once you move on to the senior teams, it's not that it's less serious, because those guys are really, really good as well. But it's just a different vibe. It's grown-up men who has kids and full-time jobs, and you know they might have a beer on the way home from a football game, and I was just way too serious and square when it comes to those things. So I just saw that as an opportunity, and I start seeing regionals happen a few months later in Copenhagen. So I went to watch that, and that was in 2014. And after watching that, I was like, "This is it. I wanna be on that floor. I'll do whatever it takes." And that was also in the middle of my senior year in gymnasium, which is kind of our high school, or in between high school and college. And after I did my first CrossFit class, I was just like, all in on this. I will not go to a single party from here. Not that I was a big party guy before at all, but it's just part of youth, right? And in Denmark, there's quite a big party culture. So not touching alcohol or anything like that was like a shock to all my friends. But I was just really focused on, I wanted to do really well in CrossFit, and I started competing, and I start just nailing down all the things I needed to. Got some good guidance from some good coaches. I was to live there for a year because I'm half French. That wasn't in regards to CrossFit, but it just kind of happened, and that's where everything kind of started for me. And I haven't really looked back since. Pretty much all my plans of going to business school and all that stuff, I just put that behind me. I was like, this is it. I love the sport. I love coaching. I took my level 1. I was completely sold on the mythology and making an impact on other people. And yeah, that's pretty much it. And 7 years later, or 8 years later, I'm still here, and I feel like I'm just getting started.
Um, I know that at one point you were training with your brother and something happened there where you lost him and it made you focus on a goal for him. Can you
Mm.
talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. So when I started CrossFit, my brother got really involved, because he also loves sports, and he was just super big fan of watching it, and he was also into it himself at the same level. So he became like my support person the first few years when I started CrossFit in 2014, 2015. And he would travel with me for my first competitions and just be that support person. And he believed in me like a lot. And it's not like he didn't do that in the past, but we never really had that type of bond that we created when I started CrossFit. It was kind of strange, not strange, but we just became very, very close from that. also at that stage we're both grown up, and we would both know where we're heading in life, and yeah, we really bonded over this. And so I managed to qualify for a really big competition. It was like 100 athletes that qualified, and I qualified as like, I basically got some backfilling spots because I finished like 101st on the leaderboard. We went to this big competition. It was games athletes, big regionals athletes, and it went okay. Like, it was my first competition, and after that competition, we kind of debriefed, and we're like, we're gonna make it to regionals, and we're gonna make it to the games one day. And we just kind of sat over dinner and we talked about that, and we just kind of wrote it down and said that's gonna happen. And 3 months later, my brother passed away in an accident. He was super passionate about taking photos, and he lived part-time in Switzerland, going to hotel school there, and was in the mountains, shooting some pictures, and slipped and fell down a mountain, like just a cliff with 200-meter free fall. And I was at a competition at that time as well, and my mom called me in the middle of the night and told me the news, and from that day on, everything kind of changes in your life. Nothing is really the same, and some people, they handle this in some way, and some in other way, and I think the way I handle it was just made me even more, not cold-blooded, but it just made me more focused on CrossFit more than ever. And since we had created that bond in regards to CrossFit, and we had talked about regionals and really set that goal, I just told myself that there's nothing that's gonna stop me before I reach those goals. And anybody who knows me, like, that was pretty much a turning point. And I've always been very serious about a lot of things, but after that happened, it became even more black and white, things in my life. And so since that happened, I've just been super laser focused on it, and I had a lot of obstacles with injuries and things like that, and I'm just happy I never gave up, and I kept coming. And in 2017, I was one spot from qualifying, and in 2018, I managed to qualify for regionals, despite being super injured that whole year as well. And then, yeah, 2021, I qualified for my first individual CrossFit Games, and felt like I just ticked all the boxes, and that just was a huge relief, because when you set such like square goals, and you have decided that no matter what, you're not gonna quit, you have to understand, like, if you don't make it, then that's something that I would always remember the rest of my life. And you never know what can happen in life. You could keep not making it for various reasons, not being fit enough, or injury or sickness or something like that. So when I 2021 qualified, it was just a huge relief for myself and for my family and my fiance, and everyone was like, wow, like, we did it, thank God. Like, that had been like 7 years of really grinding, and it'd been tough, but it was just amazing to realize that dream and that goal and that promise.
Back and think how blessed, lucky, whatever you want to call it, you qualified for the last regionals they ever had, right?
Exactly.
And that was one of the goals that you had made with your brother, and you make it in the last year they ever have them. And then,
Yeah.
and you said even super injured, you made it. So that, check that one
Yeah.
off. And then comes the games. In 2020, you had to feel so frustrated with the way everything was going and losing your opportunities. But then in 2021, it all came to fruition. It's
Yeah.
just such a cool story.
It's just amazing when it works out, because you never guaranteed anything in life, right? Anything can happen, and so when it does work out, it's just amazing, and you have to just be so appreciative of it, because everyone works hard, and all the other competitors make just as many sacrifices. They're just as focused and train just as hard, and they're just only a select few that gets to to get that stamp on them with being a games athlete. And I'm just thankful that it worked out for me. And I hope there's going to be a lot more times where I'm going to continue to making it and hopefully make some noise every year from now.
Yeah. Andre, walk us a little bit through your expectations of your performance in 2021 and sort of end with whether you think you met those expectations or not for last year's games.
Yeah. I mean, the first and foremost goal was to qualify for the CrossFit Games. That
Sure.
was number one. And punching that ticket was a big relief, and it was really an incredible experience. Going from there into the CrossFit Games, I had set a goal of top 10. I had kind of set two goals. The first goal was top 10, and that was like my rigid goal. That was the pressure goal. That's something I can't really control. And the other goal was, to maximize my opportunities at the games in terms of preparing well, warming up properly, have a nutrition strategy, workout strategies, and really just be in the zone from start to finish. And I didn't finish top 10, but I managed to hit the other goal, which was that I felt I had a really good CrossFit Games experience. My nutrition was really good throughout the weekend. My body felt pretty good despite the volume throughout the weekend, and there was no nickels or anything like that. I was happy with the preparations I'd done. I coached myself, which has a lot of benefits, but also has a lot of challenges. And one of the challenges, of course, I've never prepared for the CrossFit Games before individually, and I hadn't been swimming and I hadn't been doing a lot of those things. So of course it wasn't a lot of time to prepare, and also wasn't a lot of time for me to make up a plan, because despite I know what the events could be at the games, and I had analyzed all the past years, it is just, you don't know exactly how you're going to handle a different training stimulus like this, and how you build your weekly structure, ensuring you hit everything, but also maybe being okay with letting certain things go, because it's difficult to prepare for everything. So I felt like it was a really successful CrossFit Games for me. It left me extremely hungry. Like, after the final day, when I had the final dinner with my fiance and we kind of debriefed the competition, we were both like, we were not drained at all. Like, we were just like, wow, we want to come back, and we want to come back for way more than this. Like, if we can finish 15th this year, like, there's going to be way more in the tank. So I was super motivated to get back to training, and my body felt good. And so it was a good experience. It was a good first year experience. And I just lack a lot of capacity and lack a lot of fitness. And I think that's just what stands between me and finishing higher in that leaderboard. It wasn't any, and it usually isn't any executional mistakes or pressure or stomach or nerves, or feeling nervous being next to the big guys, or like it's just usually not those things. And I think it's because of American football. I feel like that was a much higher pressure sport, where you really have to deliver. If you don't get that guy as the safety, you're the final man standing. If anybody gets past you, they're going to score. That's how it is on every play. If you're the long snapper and the ball doesn't sit perfectly in the middle of the hands on the punter or the holder for the field goal, like, that's your fault, and that can lose the game. So I felt like physically or mentally, those are never the obstacles. It's just physical fitness, and it just takes time.
That's good. That's good though, right? I mean, a lot of people are physically there, and what's between between their ears is what's sort of holding them back. So the fact that you feel like that piece of it is dialed in for you and sort of mature, is great news, because your fitness, you can always, get fitter.
Yeah.
That's sort of an easy formula for you. What kind of things have you done differently this year to prepare? Do you have a coach? Are you changing up the way you do things? Clearly, something has to you want to improve in certain ways. What have you done to try to do that?
So I've coached myself again this year. So since 2020, I've been coaching myself. So it's been 2.5 years.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and what I've done differently, specifically going into this season, is that I focused a lot more improving my ability to do mixed modal workouts. So typical classic CrossFit workouts,
Couplets,
chippers,
triplets. Yeah.
AMRAPs. Exactly. That I felt like that was one of the things that, if I could finish 5 spots higher in each workout at the CrossFit Games, where there was like a typical CrossFit workout, which is like 9 out of 15 events essentially, then I think that's where I felt I could move the higher up the leaderboard. Even though I also didn't do that well in running and swimming, that's only a few events, and I'm also realistic. I know I can improve everything, and making it to the
Right.
CrossFit Games, regardless how good you are, is just a nail biter. It is so difficult, and you see so many like amazing athletes and veterans who don't make the cut this year, or didn't make the cut this year. And I
Right.
wanted to make sure, first of all, that I made that cut. So I actually haven't been preparing much for outdoor events, running and swimming. I've been focusing a lot more on continuing to improve my just general CrossFit, like my ability to just do those typical couplets and triplets and mixing things. And in the past, I've done a lot of isolation work and trying to improve my capacity in each of the different domains separately, but it didn't feel that it didn't have enough transfer as soon as I mixed it. And that's what I've done this year. And that's also what saved me at the semifinals, is that I was able to score high when it was typical echo bike and thrusters and burpees and ring muscle ups and power snatches and pistols, rather than a triple three type of event.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one of the things. And the second thing is that I tried to push my strengths even further. I wanted to I think a typical strategy for a lot of the athletes is that they look at where they finish lowest and where they finish highest, and then they sort of stop working on the things that they finished highest in, and they put a lot more focus into where they finished lowest. And I've tried to put as much time into where I finished higher on the leaderboard, because I want to make sure I can capitalize on those events. So when weightlifting or sprint or something fast and heavy, those are the events I feel that I would be typically better at, or that's what I've been better at in the past. And I want to make sure that I can continue to do well at those events. Just like you have a Guillermo's, he's a podium contender because he can win 3-4 events. And then as long as he doesn't get bottom finishes in any, but he can stay average, if he wins 4 events and he gets, top 20 in the rest, there's a big chance he will win the CrossFit Games. And I feel that I am also more power based, or perhaps just feels more natural to me. So I've tried to put more time into that for this season, and going forward in the next couple of seasons, I have some different plans on how I'm gonna maximize my opportunities at the CrossFit Games in the future. So this year, a lot more preparations in terms of mixed modal, and in the future, it's going to be a different strategy from this summer and onwards.
So you mean we have to talk to you again after the games then to get the scoop on that?
Yeah, I have some plans for next year, which is going to be quite different to what I think a lot of people would expect.
Awesome.
But that's to set myself up for bigger success in the 224 season.
Mm-hmm.
So I hope that plan maps out.
I love it. You've been actually compared to Guy in your beautiful weightlifting technique. Where did you learn that? Because it's gorgeous.
um, I had a good coach in the beginning who helped me a lot with weightlifting, and we just kind of try to focus on those things. And in the beginning, the first year, I didn't do any cardio. Essentially, I just focused on trying to learn all the skills, make sure I could do them all as perfect as possible. So before I mixed anything, I made sure I could do 15 perfect ring muscle ups and perfect toes to bars and good handstand walk, and I could snatch, a solid weight. I could clean and jerk good weight at a good technique. and then only then I started working on the rest. So I feel like it just comes from the beginning. I don't do like I do each of the lift once a week, and that feels plenty.
Mhm.
But I've always been super deliberate and in in the practice elements of the training, because I felt like that was the easiest points to. It's much easier to improve on. Like I love the grunt work as well for sure. I love intervals and the echo bike and D-ball cleans and that kind of stuff, the stuff that hurts. But I also know that you can move the barrier of progress through two types of training, and one is essentially through like physical adaptations. You keep back squatting, your legs will get stronger, your nervous system will get more adapted to heavier loads. The other way to move performance is through this kind of practice model where if you can improve your efficiency in movements, such as a ring muscle up or a snatch, you can also move the weight. So essentially, those two models, the result is performance increased, but one taxes you a lot and one doesn't tax you a lot. So I found that just if I could focus on both of them for all the things, then that's been the best way to keep improving. So in terms of the weightlifting, I've just really paid a lot of attention to the practice element because that didn't really require any physical adaptations. That was just practice. And from all other sports that I've done in the past, or most other sports, is that the practice element is much bigger than the physical adaptation element. So, if you're a tennis player, you'll most likely spend the majority of the time practicing getting better at serving, your forehand, your backhand, your slice, all those things, and not as much time in running intervals on the tennis court, where one thing improves your engine, the other thing improves your skill. And even more so in golf, but even in basketball, they need to be physically conditioned. But there's no doubt if you're technically the most efficient player on the team, then you will most likely be one of the best. And even though our sport at the elite level is more capacity driven because everyone is already so skilled, there is just still a skill element that takes a lot of practice that I think maybe a lot of people neglect.
As watching you as an athlete, I think you're more geared to be a games athlete than like a regional semifinal athlete. And I want to say, being a football player, you spend a lot of time on turf, a lot of time on fields. Does that help you with the CrossFit Games being outdoors for a good majority of the event?
Good question. Like last year, we didn't really have any like field sprints or sled pushes, and not that I've been doing a ton of that. I do it now once a week leading up to the CrossFit Games, mostly also just to not pull a hamstring or something like that during the CrossFit Games, because sprinting and change of direction and all those things, it requires some adaptability, and it takes some time to get used to running at full speed and cutting corners and all those kind of things. So I don't know, like environment doesn't really. It's again one of those things that it never really plays too much of a factor. I'm just again I'm definitely not the most physically gifted athlete on the field, and I'm definitely not the one with the most capacity. I hope that I one day will be, no doubt about that. But I think I'm very adaptable, um, whether it's warm or cold or raining, or we're outside or inside, or there's music and no music, or I'm against 30 others, or I'm alone. I've just always told myself that I can't rely on any of those things. So I don't really care about them. And I don't really give it any thought either. And so I try to just narrow down all my energy to what I need to do. And so being outside or inside, I don't really think about it, to be honest.
Was it for you to make the cut in your first year to experience the full weekend?
It was amazing. Like it just was. It felt natural. It felt nice to be there. It felt good to be there with the other athletes. It's somehow a lot less stressful than a semifinal and a lot less intense. It felt like at the CrossFit Games, everyone had this kind of calmness about them. It was like it'd been a long season. It's very difficult to make it to the CrossFit Games, even for the guys who will win it. It's just super difficult to get there, and all the different stages and the focus that you've been able to put in since February onwards. It just felt like everyone was like just calm and yeah, everyone kind of looked eye to eye and everyone respected each other. And I feel like at the semifinal, everyone respects each other as well. But it's much more like cutthroat. Like you're there to take the others out, and they're there to take all the opportunity away from you. And at the CrossFit Games, and please don't, I don't want this to sound like I was just, because I wasn't there just to participate at all. But there was different vibes. People weren't as, everyone was talking and having a chatter and good vibes. And, we were out for athlete dinner, and like Brent Fikowski is giving tips to the younger athletes, and everyone's chatting and borrowing each other's grips and giving chalk to each other. And like, it was just nothing like what I expected. I thought, like my former coach, he trained me to be like, nobody here is your friends. You can have all the friends you want to have in the world, but these guys, they're here to take everything away from you. So I was a little bit coming into it like, I don't know, with a more like a bit of distance, but I realized it was also just kind of pointless to have that distance. It's not a contact sport, it doesn't matter if they fear you, they don't fear you. Like you're in your lane, they're in their lane. You know what you need to do. And I know I wasn't last year good enough to be in a stage where I can worry about the others. I can't be Pat Vellner where I flip the pick and I look around and I'm ahead of everyone and I will pace it based on that. I'm not at that stage, and I know that. I need to just stick to my strategy, stay focused, and finish every event strong. And that's the only thing I can do. So yeah. So back to the question. It was just an amazing experience. It was but somehow it wasn't that pressured. It was just, and the further you made it, the more relaxed it almost got. Because everyone was like, wow, we made the cut. But yeah, I never really thought about it too much with the cut. I also was lucky to be not close to the cut line at any stage, of what I remember at least. So there was never really that thought going into my head. It was just kind of one event at a time and do what you can, and yeah, really make sure to finish strong, because I realized that was one of the things that I collected the most points on last year. The last like 10 meters of the workout and a lot of the work or the last rep or jumping over the bar and running in, I got like 3-4 spots every time because I just sent it in the end. And yeah, I was really surprised about that. Because you're at the CrossFit Games and you're imagining everyone just, yeah, like first time I saw Justin Medeiros, I knew that he was gonna be a potential champion. Like I had no doubt. I was against him in Ireland at Filthy 150, and this guy was sliding over the finish line. No matter if he was in first or in last, it didn't matter what the event was. He flew across the finish line with a slide technique every time, and I was like, that's the attitude that a champion will have. Like that's the hungry dog mentality, and that's what I try to carry with me for the CrossFit Games last year and in every event that I do.
You said a couple things. So a follow-up to that was, because you got to do the full weekend and you coach yourself, that gave you more data points to be able to plan for this year.
Yeah.
Which are invaluable. But you also said, I don't think I was near the cut line, if I remember. Was the weekend a blur as well?
Not really. It's like when you're a competition, you're so focused on just doing the workouts, which means like you do a workout, you finish that, you need to hydrate, you need to get as much carbs in, as much food in. Like, you have a full schedule plan. And because you don't know all the events and they're often announced as they come, you have to constantly, like, all right, that workout, okay, I'm going to warm up like this. This is my strategy. This is what I'm going to do. And then, the next event starts. And you kind of just, the days are running through like that. So I don't know if it was a blur, but it was just really intense in that sense. Because you can easily get distracted, or, enjoy the moment a bit too much, and then you haven't gotten enough carbs in, and by day 4 you're going to be tired, and you didn't get your nap in, or you didn't strategize enough for that event. And actually, coaching myself, it almost felt like a benefit, because I saw that it was difficult for the coaches to be at hand all the time. Half the time the coaches weren't with the athletes. So when an event gets announced to the athletes, everyone is grabbing their phone, calling their coach, texting them back and forth, like, this is the event, what do you want, what should I do? And there was I felt, if it was myself that had to do it, that would stress me out a lot, because the coach wasn't there for the briefing. They wouldn't be able to see the floor plan, the workout. All these elements, they play a factor in how the event will be executed and all those things. And it felt like such a strength that I am used to coaching myself, and I'm used to making all decisions for strategy, for warm-ups, for everything. So I could just sit with it for myself, and that was just somehow a really nice and calming feeling. Like, I know what to do. I usually coach myself. I usually make strategies myself. There's no difference, and I don't need to stress about that. 2 hours before the next event, that's plenty. Um, and so that felt like a really, really actual benefit to have. I'm not saying, like, if there was a dream coach out there that I was like, I wish there was someone that I thought would be the perfect fit for me, because then I would definitely use them. I think having a coach is always superior, no doubt. But it has to be the perfect person for the job. And we are still a really new sport, and I haven't discovered that person yet. And who knows, maybe it changes.
Hmm.
So
That's interesting. I like that you're saying that definitely coach is probably better than not having a coach in the long run, assuming you can find the perfect person. And I think a lot of athletes don't find that perfect person. But I love the perspective of, everyone else panicking and having to rely on their coach to tell them what to do, when you're just sitting back going, okay, what do we do? I don't have to rely on anyone else to do that. That's a
no.
really interesting benefit that I hadn't considered before. So I
Yeah,
like that.
and it's funny because Spencer Panchak said the exact same thing. He
Okay.
coached himself for 10 years,
Wow.
and both Panchak twins, they just worked out together, and now they have coaches, but they have 10 years of experience of coaching themselves. So when that stuff happens at an event, they don't panic because they've been there before. And you'll
Yeah.
always have that. You always have this period where you did it yourself.
I also feel one of the things that I realized at the semifinal this year was that sometimes it's better to not talk too much about the things that are going to happen or did happen. Sometimes it's better to just put them in a little box and just save them for later. Because I felt that in the past I could get really fatigued, like cognitively, and that would affect my decision making, my ability to really push to my absolute maximum if I felt drained in my head. And with a big competition like that, you can quickly talk too much about the event that's going to happen, and you visualize the event over and over and over again, and the warm-up strategy. And then when the event is done, you talk about the event again with your manager and your team and your coach, and all this conversation. It's just, for me, that has to happen before the competition. Now at the games is a little bit more difficult because we don't know the events in advance. But once I've made a strategy for an event and I thought it through, I put it in my book and I just close that book. And until I start warming up for that specific event, I don't want to think about it. I don't want to talk about it. And once the event is done, I will debrief that event, I will rate it from 1 to 10. Physical performance, like did I follow my strategy? Did I execute it well? And then I will do a mental performance, which is like body language from 1 to 10, and internal language. And once I've done that, then that event is finished. And I can always go back and, okay, I finished 37th in that event. I bombed it. We need to fix that next season. But I feel like by doing that, it's just the competition becomes much more easy, because you bombed the event, you won the event, it doesn't matter. You do it, you review, you finish it, you move on to the next. And in between that time, all of a sudden 2 hours feels like a great relaxation period. You can watch Netflix, go for a walk, chit chat, relax, all those kind of things. But if you spend the first hour after, because you also have to cool down, you also have to fuel, maybe you get some massage, then you also talk about the events, before you know it, you're starting warming up again. And you haven't been able to perform that wave. You one wave that's building on top of another. And by the time you've done 6-7 events, it's just, at least for myself, you just shot mentally. And then the mind always stops the body first. Like, you can be sore and beat up, but if the headspace is there, you can really push your body far beyond anything. Like, but when the mind is tired, like, the body just won't cooperate. That's at least in my experience.
Yeah. How old are you, Andre?
27.
27.
28,
Very
sorry.
mature.
28.
So in another 10 years, do you see yourself coaching, perhaps? Because if I'm still alive, I would like you to be my coach. You've got some great strategies.
Yeah, like, I love coaching. I love coaching before I loved the athlete style. And yeah, that's gonna be my life afterwards. And actually, the most difficult part is not letting that side take over, because I really love that part of CrossFit and of training, and I want to build the absolute best coaching organization there is within this sport. That's 100% my goal long term. But I also know that I need to maximize my athletic youth. And even though I'm 28, and in some people's eyes that's like, oh wow, you're one of the you're in the end. I can honestly tell you that I feel like I'm at the beginning, and I'm not saying that just to say that. Like, I genuinely feel that the way I've been training the past 2.5 years is nothing like I've ever done before. I do tons of bodybuilding stuff. I have a full gym. This is my office I'm sitting in right now, where we have a whole team that helps me manage the coaching organization. And right next to me, I have a 150 square meter gym, which half of it is a bodybuilding gym. So we have a lot of equipment, and that equipment allows me to put a lot less stress on the joints in terms of all the strength work. So I really feel that my body feels like, I just feel that it's only starting. Like, only last year I back squatted 200 for the first time. That's a number that most of the guys have been back squatting for many years. And I feel like just all of those things are only just starting to come along. Like, I haven't even tried running a lot yet. And I feel just that the benefit of being 28, there's a lot of benefits with that. I'm getting married. I'm having my first kid in a few weeks, and I'm settled. I live in a country. I'm really settled in my life. I know what I want to do the next 50 years. I have the gym inside my house. I have the office inside my house. My whole life is absolutely structured to maximize time so that I can do, 3 things. And that's one, be a good dad and a good husband. And second, be a good athlete. And third, be a good coach and build this organization. So I feel like, even though 28 for some people, I know there's 20-year-old guys who are killing it. And it's amazing to see such young athletes that are so talented. But I always try to tell the athletes that I've worked with in the past who are also in that age, 28, and they feel like they're getting old, it's that it doesn't really matter what age you're at right now. Like, if somebody is 18 and coming up and pushing your level, well, that's okay. Like, they haven't beaten you yet. Like, you're going to continue to get better. So you continue to get better. They're not going to catch you. By the time you stop, yes, they will catch you, but you're done by then. So it doesn't really matter what age you're at until, you know, you decide to stop. Like Pat Vellner could be continuing to still be, you know, top 3 male, and being 37 and there's somebody being 20, who cares? It doesn't matter. Like, you see my logic with that?
Yeah,
Like,
for sure.
we're all competing in the same category. So essentially it doesn't really matter how old or young you are. And the thing the young athletes maybe will have more problems with is like things I already been through. Are they going to take an education? Yes or no? If yes, can they handle that distraction? Where are they going to live? Are they supported? Are they sponsored? Or, you know, all of those things that will happen in the 20s. Will you have a girlfriend, a boyfriend? You want to have a family? Or what are you doing to invest for your future? All those things can be a big stressor for you if you're just going to punch the athlete lifestyle. And I encourage people 100% to do it. But I think there can be something in the back of your head. It's like, if you don't want to coach after that, then I would at least be quite afraid of pursuing the athlete lifestyle. I can go all in on the athlete lifestyle because I know that it just makes me such much better coach for the future. And I know as soon as the day I hang up my Metcons, you know, then I can go all in on the coaching, and it's right there waiting for me. But it will wait for me no matter if I'm gonna be 35 or 40. It doesn't matter. It will always be there, ready for the next step.
You dropped a ton of nuggets in that.
I know, I was going to
It's
say.
a lot to unpack.
Whoa, hold on.
But first, let's plug your training program. It is No Shortcuts Training.
Yeah.
You can go to andrehoudet.com and check all that out. So if you're interested in getting with Andre about any of that stuff, that is the website you go to. Make sure we get that out there real quick.
Actually, that
Then
website, I actually don't use that website anymore. So right now it's just through the Instagram.
Okay.
Yeah, but
Heard it from the man.
But thank you.
Heard it from. And then you drop married, baby, and all of that. Right. So you say you have a fiance. When's the wedding?
Well, the wedding has been kind of postponed for some time now, but the plan is next summer for sure. Okay. So that's the plan, because now we're having a baby, and actually that's like we have been dreaming of this for many years, so we're super excited for it. The only challenge that will be is that the due date is the 23rd of July.
Oh.
And so, and I'm not gonna miss the birth of my first baby. There's no way. No event is bigger than that. And right now I have my flight tickets for the 30th of July. So we are
no late babies.
Crossing fingers that baby will come before that. So so I really hope that will happen. If not, I need to contact CrossFit HQ and hear what happens if I don't show up for check-in. Can I show up for game day and still be eligible to compete, or how does that work? We have to see. You know, I kind of want to have everything in life, and I've already gotten a lot of it, and I'm very grateful for that. So I try not to stress too much if it wasn't gonna work out this year for that reason. That would definitely be a tough hit, but having a baby girl is definitely bigger than that. So, and there's so many more years to come for me. So I really hope that it works out and she gives birth before. But let's see what happens. It's going to be a pretty crazy next few weeks. That's for sure.
Did your fiance do CrossFit?
Yeah.
Or does she do CrossFit?
We met through CrossFit, and she's been on the weightlifting seminar staff, and she's also been to regionals. She's been the person that's been with me to every single competition ever. So she was it's the first time she didn't come for a competition was the semifinals this year.
I'm just suggesting that maybe she should start, like, you know, squat cleaning or something towards the end of July to just
we're
get
doing
moving
like,
a little bit. Good.
We're doing everything, like acupuncture and like all, like, she's jumping on a trampoline every day and walking tons, and like
Good.
We have
You
seen
should be fine
like
then.
tons of advice for that. So we cross fingers.
Girls tend to come on time. Boys are the ones that are usually late. So we'll see. Hopefully
Well,
that'll
that's
be
good.
the case.
Yeah, hopefully.
Girls are prompt. I had one of the coaches at the gym where I worked at several years ago. Her water broke during a squat clean workout
Wow.
at the gym. So it was really cool. Yeah.
Well,
So that's why I say squat cleans.
it's a good plan.
It's the formula.
I'll let her know.
Oh, that's so exciting. Now, is she going to have help? Obviously, because you'll be,
Yeah.
baby's coming, you're leaving, she's going to be there. Who's going to
Yeah.
get your coach's pass?
So that's an interesting guy. It's a guy I kind of wanted to work with for some time. Like I want him to work with me in no shortcuts training. He's the same age as me, and he's a really ambitious coach. He has like something special. He's not from Denmark. He's from Czech or from Poland, and I got connected with him when he moved to Denmark through a friend of ours, and we've been meeting up like every third month, just talking about programming and coaching. And yeah, he's a super interesting guy. So I asked him if he wanted to come, and he has a good vibe, and he will understand what it's about. Like I don't need much help with it's mostly I need somebody to be there. I need a companion. I need somebody who can, like at the CrossFit Games, for example, you have all your bags with you, and you can't bring all your bags to when you go to one arena, and you need to have your coach bring one bag to the other. And there's tons of things. And I thought about doing it all myself, but that was going to be something that could affect performance, and I didn't want to have that. And I also hate asking favors. So I also thought of him because I knew it would be such a good experience for him learning. His dream is to work with, the best athletes in the world. And I think he definitely has like talent, the drive, and he's on his way to be a coach that I would dream to work with one day if I were younger and I had met him at that stage.
Yeah.
And so I saw there could be a super good mutual benefit from the trip. So I offered him that my company would cover his flights and hotel, and then I would need him to help me with the things I would need, and he could get the experience of being backstage as a coach at the games and build a network with the other coaches. And I mean, like you're an aspiring young coach, and you can stand with Ben Bergeron and Yami Tikkanen and Fraser and all those guys backstage. I thought that would be a pretty cool experience. And he was on board right away. So I'm really looking forward to travel with him for that trip. And my fiance would definitely be the best person, and she knows me like nobody else. But for this trip, it's not going to work out.
So you mentioned Metcons. You just signed an extension on your Nike deal a couple weeks ago, and so congratulations on that.
Thank you. Yeah, that's pretty exciting. Like since 2008 at 2018 regional, somebody introduced me to the guy who was in charge of the Nike European branch, and I since then I got his email. I just been sending him emails like every third month since 2018, and and they were really supportive since then. They always send me like care packages every time I send them an email, but I wanted to have a sponsorship with them. And so I kept sending them, what does it require? Like, do I need to win a competition? Do I need to go to the CrossFit Games? Do I need to beat other Nike athletes? Like, do I need to have 100,000 followers? What do I need to do? And they kept they couldn't really tell me what it was. And I kept asking, and every time they kind of just stalled me by just sending a care package, and and then before the semifinals last year, I sent them I said, this is my final email. Either you tell me that I'm too ugly, I'm not tall enough, or I haven't done enough, I just don't fit the profile, or you tell me what it is that I need to do. And if I can't be told this, then 100% okay. Then
I'm not wearing your stuff anymore.
Then, yeah, and of course they don't care if I wear their stuff or not. But I wanted to, my dream was always to work with them, and I wanted to know if I needed to let go of that dream, because it was also just I was struggling to being patient. Like I've been patient for 2.5
Right.
years, and I also hadn't done anything great, but I would love to get the tiniest deal before I would do something great, because I wanted to show them that if they believe in me, I was going to deliver. Anyways, they said they're going through reconstruction, blah, blah, blah. So they would get back to me in 6 months, but they would be happy to send me clothes for the season. And I said, no problem, no thank you. I don't, doesn't, it's for me, it's not about the clothes. It's pen on paper for me. That's what
Right.
matters, no matter how small or big a deal is. And I also said, I understand I don't have anything to flex with to get a big deal, nothing. But I will promise that I will deliver. And anyways, since I sent that last email of like, then never mind, well, then 5 days later, I got a like direct message on my phone, like, we have a contract for you if you want it. And 3 days later,
Wow.
I went to the semifinals and I qualified for the games. And it was just like everything just came together. They gave me the deal, I delivered, and it just felt like it was amazing. So I'm super happy to this year to get a bigger deal, and to again, I assigned my extension before the semifinals, which I was also happy with, because I didn't.
Mm.
It's just, it feels like they believe more in you when you sign
Sure.
it before you have punched a ticket, and it always doesn't come down to that. But they're amazing to work with, and I mean, Nike is the number one
Huge.
sports brand in the world, and whenever somebody here don't understand what I do with CrossFit, if I say I'm sponsored by Nike, they're like,
Oh, legit.
oh
Yeah.
wow, that's pretty legit. So that's super cool.
Well, I know we've just come up on the hour, Andre, and I have so much more to ask you, but I want to respect your time. But we did have a listener jump in with a few questions, just quick hitters, and
Cool.
we'll hit a couple of those and then let you go.
Yeah, I think the easiest one to do, Scott, is probably just, can you give us just a quick, like, what does an average Monday look like for you?
Yeah. Well, on Mondays and Fridays, I have the team that works for me with No Shortcuts Training come and work. So we have one person who takes care of individualized clients. So when we get individualized client inquiries, we send them to him, and he sits at the office and programs, and he uses our methodology and gets to some sparring with me with the clients. And then we have a content creator who is in charge of the creative stuff, Instagram, making, like, coming up with ideas for videos and such. And so they come in the morning, we sit for an hour, and we chit chat about what's going to happen in the day, and we all train at 10 o'clock. Right now we're not doing all the same stuff, but usually we would be doing the same stuff, so we'd be training together. Then there's lunch, then we work again some time. Typically I will either nap. On Mondays I usually don't nap when they're there. I could be if I wanted to, because training is number one priority, and they understand that. And so it's not like your boss goes to bed and you're at work. It's like I try not to do it when they're there, but I know that if I need to do it, I will do it, because I need to prioritize training. And then I'll train again at 3 o'clock until 5, 6 p.m. and then dinner. And then I do recovery modalities after dinner. I have these boots, like Normatec boots, that I put on, or stretch, or other things that just makes my body feel good. And I mean, that's a pretty quick recap of, what happens in the day. And it can be a lot more detailed, but that's pretty much in rough terms what it is.
Yeah. Are you a Thursday, Sunday recovery guy?
Sunday I recover, yeah. So Sunday I
Yeah.
take care. I rest completely to spend more time with my fiance, A, and B, I also do it so that I can meal prep, like my main meal, my snack, wash all my clothes. I take care of all, like, house chores, like, for example, like cut the grass and
Oh, yeah. What are
get
your house
groceries.
chores? What kind of house chores do you have?
Well, right now I do a little bit more than I usually do, because my wife is about to give birth. So I've told her,
Sure.
of course I will help as much as needed, and so she can.
Tell us, what are
do-
the typical Andre duties?
So we have a heating system that's heated on these like small wooden tablets. So I need to fill in like 80 kilos of that every Sunday. I need to clean the heating system every second week. So it's like, yeah, that takes some time. I wash all my clothes. I obviously train a lot, so I have a lot of washing. So it's like 2 full washings and then folding all my clothes and putting it back. I meal prep for 5 days, like main meals, and then I meal prep also these like snacks. So I make these like date balls, dates and oats. They also take quite some bit of time. We have a huge garden, so I cut the grass there. I get groceries, and we just buy groceries once a week. So when we get groceries, it's pretty serious.
A big haul, yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Do you bring all the bags in one trip?
Yeah.
Okay.
You know,
That's
that's how
like
it is.
CrossFitters
Yeah, exactly. Every time I get groceries, they're like, "You're gonna carry all that?" I'm like, "I'm not gonna walk twice
Yes, I
out
am.
here." Yeah. And then I clean the gym and I clean the office. So I vacuum the whole gym. If the floor is very dirty, I'll wash it as well. Every second week, I also wipe off all the machines and surfaces, and then the tables in here, and vacuum clean in here, and just those kind of things. So the day passes by pretty quickly. And then I try to really just spend time and downtime with the family, and we go to the beach and go for a walk with our dog, or jump in the ocean or something like that.
Nice.
So last question, and we'll let you get out of here, is what was the CrossFit movement you struggled with the most when you first started?
That was double unders. It felt so stupid that was the problem, because all the other things, they just clicked super quickly. But double unders, it frustrated me so much because I couldn't really understand why I would struggle with it. It's not just couldn't string big sets. So that was just the thing that took me the longest. But the rest came pretty quickly, I would say.
Would you get tired, or would you just trip up?
I would just trip up. We didn't really understand why. Like,
Yeah.
but I kept
I
filming
always just get
myself and
tired.
watching. Yeah, okay, yeah.
I have to stop. I can't
But,
go anymore.
Well,
yeah.
Andre, I can't express enough how much fun this hour's been.
I'm so glad we did this.
Yeah, this has been awesome. I'm so glad I got to know you better. Good luck with the pregnancy. Let's hope for a speedy delivery.
23rd. Let's go.
Fingers crossed. Yeah.
And then we'll get you to Madison where we can root you on, and hopefully Kat and I will be there in person to
Yeah.
do that.
Nice.
And
you guys
We'll
you're
say
gonna
hi.
be there at the games?
We're hoping.
we're
Again,
hoping.
fingers crossed. We're waiting on our credentials. We're waiting on
okay.
our media credentials. So
You can just say you work
Yeah.
for me if you want.
there you go. Hey, that'll be our next email. Thank you. We'll work on that.
All right.
I'm happy to
I'll
send
take
an
all
email
the
saying that.
pictures.
Cool.
You're the best.
Well, thank you so much, Andre.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Appreciate it.